Guys, it's me again, Orcslar. Where we last left off, let's see. Checking. Now, where I last left off, I'm gonna add a bit of conundrum for something real quick. Deku got hurt badly at the USJ. I simply just said, Eri put her hands on him and he was all fixed up. I'm gonna show you some things, I'm gonna say some things from Deku's point of view. But to finish it off, they're at USJ. Deku almost died, as my what ifs typically have him do. Well, actually, scratch that. Very few of them. Let's see, meta. This one, Scorpion, I guess. And I believe, the Deku and Bell what if. But anyways, for Deku during that situation, it was different. He was fading in and out. And at one point, he was technically dead. But for him, he was seeing black, white light, and, also a sort of flashing back of memory. He remembers his mom being in the place. He got a lot of flashbacks. And at one point, he was in a room with his mom, where he's all grown up and such. Keeps on getting, he was in and out of that. So he's like, what is this? What is this? Mom, why are you here? She's just silent, no words or anything. He's like, Mom. As then when he goes to touch her, she turns around, bloody face, and she's like, what the fuck? As then he blacks out. Then he comes back on and it's pitch white. He's looking around, he's like, what keeps on happening? As it goes around that for several minutes for him. As when he wakes up, everything was snapped back into place. As he's like, oh, I am not making the entire sound again. Alright, sorry. See, he had his little thing. He's been dwelling on it for the past few days. And at this running point, he's thinking about it even more. Was that the afterlife? Was I delirious? Was I actually dead? As he's questioning himself over and over again, this has sort of shook him up. As he doesn't even hear the whole go part, as he is still standing there in runner's position. As everyone pushed past him, Deku's like, what the, oh, I guess and you can hear President Mike, it looks like Izuku Midoriya is stuck. Midnight, can you help him out? As Midnight goes to check on him, she's Hiroshima and them wait, where's Deku? As they're I said, they were able to get around Todoroki's little thing very quickly, and they pretty much jump from the walls. As Midnight's Midoriya, as she pats him on the shoulder, he's oof, snaps out of it, then bolts off, leaving a dust of wind as he's lunging like he did when he was in his rage mode a little bit. But he isn't. He's lunging as it's oh, and it seems Izuku Midoriya is off, folks. As she's what the? As they're Izuku Midoriya received some heavy injuries, right? Sorry. As they're well, yes, that is true, but nothing really else happened. He was perfectly fine, by what we could tell. So, we don't know what it could be. As they start talking with, not Deku, but with Aizawa and such about the events, and they wanted to get comments from Recovery Girl, but she said no. He's well, hopefully nothing else happens like that. As Deku's bolting off, he's catching up and going past people repeatedly as he's like, dude, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like breathing in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. As Kirishima's and them are like, is Deku okay? He like stopped for a bit. I don't know. As Deku's like, as they are typically like in front of people. The only time that they aren't in front of people is when they come to obstacles like the gaps, like I forget, the gorge is what I'm just gonna call it. Like that little thing right there. As then they're trying to figure out how to jump across it. Deku then closely passes the robots, passes by everyone. Even like Araka and them who are like standing right there. Deku's like, huh? As he's looking around, he literally just runs forward, looks at the closest one, and then jumps with all his strength. As everyone's like, what is he? As he lands, rolling to like save him from his like tumbling. Then he does that a few times, jumping from from little platform to platform. One point he uses the rope, which my guess is supposed to hold a lot of weight. So as he's like jumping towards it, he grabs onto it and like spins off it. Or like is like monkey bars as he like grabs it and like uses it to swing himself. As then he gets over the thing relatively quickly. As he's close up to Todoroki. Kirishima, Mina, and Eri, are a bit ahead of him as well. Like, they've been able to stay up far. Spockgo's used his explosions and such to propel him. He's using bigger explosions than he typically would for these fast maneuvers, because he's sort of gone angry. Deku and them are trying to get past as there's just a bunch of mines still. Deku's like, how are we? As then he's thinking, gotta be careful. As he's walking by, he's like, 1, 2. He's looking like around constantly. As he accidentally steps on one, he's like, wait a second. As then he places his feet together, leans forward, as then, boof. As he's sent flying through the air. As it's like, and it seems like Izuku Midoriya got caught in a explode. As then they see him as Deku's going straight through the air. As Kirishima's like, what the? As he thinks about, wait, Deku. As he looks at the bomb, he immediately steps on it and goes, poof, looking like a couple of torpedoes are heading through the air. Mina and Eri, on the other hand, they're trying to use their nimbleness and quick reflexes to keep an eye out on the whole bomb situation. They easily, on the same field of, like you could say, a dancer or something, are quickly moving their toes in between spaces where they won't be blown to bits. As Deku and Kirishima use that little technique. Sorry. With them blasting forward ahead of Bakugo and such. As they not immediately, but as soon as they like stop and land, they start running. As they're like bashing into each other, looking like a couple of giraffes as they slam each other. So Deku like uses a lot more of his strength as he bashes into Kirishima, who used his hardening quirk and got stuck in the wall. Deku then makes it to the thing, being victorious with Deku and if Deku like in the lead, then comes Kirishima, then Bakugo and Todoroki. Stop yawning. It's like that. Sorry. With that being said, Deku and them are, Deku and them just, wait around. Until eventually they get called and it's a whole, change up your style and blah, blah, blah. The Cavalry battle. Forgot the name for a second. The Cavalry battle. As they're set to do that. Now, the four of them talk amongst each other, speaking, saying, we could all attempt to go together Or we could all go our separate ways this time. As Deku says, I vote we go our separate ways. We can't always rely on each other. Kirishima says, I agree. As they all agree and eventually split off to find their groups. Mina wants to join Bakugo's. Kirishima still wants to join Bakugo's as well. Eri will take the place of Mineta, I'd say. There's no way that guy still isn't like giant in his adult form. So Deku, not Deku, but he will like have Eri on his back. As Deku creates a Uraraka, Mei Hatsume and such. Deku speaks with Mei Hatsume as she talks about her being in the support course. Talks about like person who did upgrades to his suit. The helmet was completely destroyed, as well as the drill. As she's like, "Yes, you ruined my babies." As you're like, "What?" As then she explains that those were things she worked on for absolute ages. She can't believe that he literally just destroyed them. Like, well, I didn't mean to, it just sort of happened. He's like, yeah, I know. Anyways, let's get this over with. As they pair off and do relatively the same as they did in the anime. Sure, Eren and the rest of them still have their whole telekinesis, and Deku will use the cold, I forget what it's called, freeze blaster, cold touch or something along those lines, as Deku uses these to keep people at bay. Even at one point when Bakugo came flying at them, Deku used telekinesis to hold Bakugo in the air, as they played cat and mouse for however long that thing lasted. With Deku ultimately not losing his headband, as when he saw Ida like bending down, Deku pretty much forced Ida using like his telekinesis to force him down into the ground. As Ida's like, hang on a second, as he was trying to do the reciprocal burst, Deku essentially kept him still. Or like forced him into the ground where he would like trip over. Or something along those lines. With them ultimately winning. So it's still the same teams that made up the last round. Sorry. Mouth's kind of dry. As then Deku is paired up against Shinzo. As Shinzo still tries to talk to Deku, but Tailman does the whole shh, don't talk to him, he's crazy. As then Deku gets the explanation told to him. As then when it comes to the match, he still starts insulting Ojiro. Deku goes to put a stop to him as he's like, man, you're lucky to have such cool powers. As Deku stomps in his track. Like, seriously. Look at it. You got super strength, super durability, super speed, fire, telekinesis, and pyrokinesis. What kind of person wouldn't want that? You're so lucky that you got turned into a big brother. As when Deku hears this, he's like, shut up. As when he comes rushing forward to Mind Thing takes control. As Deku starts walking towards the thing. As Deku's like, no more being a puppet. She tried to force her way into my mind. I can force them out. Forcing them out is specialty. As Deku's doing everything. He's thinking about it, like trying to force off these mental whatevers. As then eventually he thinks of something. He's like, wait a second, what if I respond to pain? As Deku subconscious is able to bring up his arm. As he stops for a second and takes a knee. So everyone's like, oh, are you okay, Izuku Midori? Are you still able to continue? Deku grabbed his arm and broke it over his knee. As there's like a snap sound. As Deku lets out like an Urgh! That being said, he's like, I'm okay now. Him looking up at Shinzo. Shiro's a different thing. As then he starts walking towards him as it's like, oh. As he tries to get Deku to speak again, Deku grabs his mouth with his one good hand and lifts him up into the air, saying, you don't know what I've been through. So he picks him up and throws him like a baseball. That being said, Deku sees him going flying. Sees him go flying is what Deku does. How? I think I got some skin burn or something. Anyways. With that being said, Deku moves on to the next round as it proceeds as he typically would. Mina's just having a more easy time defeating people. And she still uses her acid to slide around and such, but she is able to, as you would probably say, like, beat the people who beat her before. Same thing, except like Kirishima is like Bakugo's true test. But now it's gonna be Deku versus Todoroki. So Todoroki and him are sized up against one another. Deku did run into Endeavor, who talked about how he himself wanted to get Adam inserted into Todoroki so that way he'd become more powerful. It's a shame that Lamb was one of the few who actually saw the potential of Adam. As he starts walking away, Deku turns him around as everyone seems to think that this thing was a gift, when in truth it stole 12 years of his life away to being some sort of weird protector of his little sister, forced to don armor that he really never took off. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, then again, he didn't have to. But that alone could drive someone insane. Think about it. If someone was able to didn't have to sleep, or couldn't sleep, but no negative effects were had, would they go insane? Or would they just be forever, awake? As he points that out, he's like, don't you dare think you know what is a gift and what is a curse. You got a fire quirk that overheats your body. That's something. But at least it doesn't turn your skin to ash or cook you alive. That's at least at its normal stage. Don't you dare try to compare things like that with you and your son. If you weren't such a shitty father, maybe he would be more open to using his quirk. But pushing a kid to the breaking point, that's as good as telling a dog to chew through its collar when you have shaved down its teeth, or filed down, sorry. Get it right. As he walks out, walking to the thing, with Todoroki using his ice on Deku, with Deku reciprocating with a large blast of fire. As he's like, there's a sound off, it's like, now let's see, folks, which is superior? Atom, fire abilities made with Atom, or fire and ice abilities made with, quirks, there we go, made out of quirks, sorry. As then they continue this little bout. Deku blasts Todoroki with fire, as Todoroki keeps on launching ice. Deku's waiting and waiting as he's using it to keep Todoroki on his toes, till eventually you notice Todoroki starts to shake and shiver, as Deku says, look at that. You're starting to shake and shiver already. Sorry. as he points out that Todoroki ain't got nothing on him. Sorry. With that being said, Todoroki starts saying that Deku doesn't understand him, as Deku says, "Alright, you don't understand me. Your dad did something. You thought you'd ruin it by not using his quirk. That doesn't make much sense. Your logic is flawed. Then again, I don't care. Right now we're fighting, and I'll try to push you to be your best, but if it doesn't work, oh well, big deal." As then, Todoroki has his giant explosion, and Deku was able to somewhat hang on, as he planted his feet and got his fist and smashed it into the ground, to keep himself being blown back completely. Kirishima and Bakugo. Now that's another interesting fight. Kirishima fights Bakugo toe to toe, using his not unbreakable, but his armor, or the hardening quirk, there we go, to maximum effect. He'll let Bakugo blast him a few times in like certain areas as he tries to keep up. As he will then like sort of analyze him slowly but surely, as then eventually goes to take Bakugo down when Bakugo fires off a massive explosion as Kirishima sent flying and lands on the outside of the ring. He was this close from being not labeled that though. So Mina and Eri. Eri's not in. Mina takes down Tokoyami, if I remember correctly. That's who she goes up against. Deku and them eventually Deku and Bakugo come to blows when Bakugo beats Mina, as Mina did also give him a run for his money. Deku beat Ida, as he pretty much stood there as Ida tried to do his reciprocal burst. Deku planted his feet firmly and squarely and forced himself to stay in front of the line. Bakugo versus Mina, well, that's pretty much what happens there is that Bakugo fights Mina using the what is it? I'm trying to remember the name. Shit. Tries to fight Bakugo with her acid. There we go. Sorry. And the telekinesis that she has at her dispense. Fighting him, giving him a pretty good fight, as she forces him back to the point that Bakugo gets to the point of the wall. As with acid, since it can be more offensive, she throws a little bit here and there, but she doesn't throw enough that would go through his skin and bones. He used it merely enough. Used the acid enough to the point that it would make him pretty difficult to move. Like, for instance, putting several things of it, like droplets and such, on someone's foot. Drops on a foot. That could cause a lot of damage, sure, but it may also be repairable as long as it doesn't hit any veins, and that would be difficult. Well, anyways. Well, that's unless it cauterizes the wounds as soon as it melts through it. Well, whatever. Deku eventually has to come to blows with Mina. Well, actually, Bakugo throws her out. That's how I had the entire thing is. So that Deku then starts sizing up Bakugo as a sort of, as you would say, compare notes. Deku throwing out his moves, Bakugo throwing out his moves, being smarter, knowing what Deku is truly capable of, as yes, Deku has used every ounce of strength before Bakugo has seen it. Bakugo has been trying to outmaneuver him, try to get out of his reach, stuff like that. And since Deku doesn't have the, a suit, he can't use any of his little gadgets to snag Bakugo out of the sky, as Bakugo just blasts him with large explosions, again and again and again. Eventually, to the point Deku being annoyed that he punches into the ground, grabs a rock and throws it as it pretty much crushes Bakugo's stomach inward. Then he falls down, coughing up stuff. Deku says, "I win," as then he walks away. That being said, Deku and them, sorry with the whole that being said, Deku and them are then told to pick out an internship and hero names. Now, in the next part, yes, this one I'm cutting out quite a bit short. I'm tired right now. What will be happening is that Deku, Bakugo, Eri, and Mina will be getting hero names. Kirishima and Mina will be getting the same names. But what should be Eri's and Deku's quirk? I mean, not quirk, but hero names be? Guys, tell me in the comments. Well, anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed it. Hope y'all continue to enjoy it. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.